If you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling depressed or unmotivated, feeling this like deeper sense of lack after awakening, this is a good thing. When I went through my process, it doesn't necessarily happen after a particular awakening, but somewhere down the line, we can go through this kind of we can go through this kind of deep sense of lack that makes us feel like what we're doing is pointless and that life is almost not quite worth, there's nothing worth doing in it. And what happened with me was that I kind of felt empty inside. I felt this emptiness, not the emptiness that that the Buddhists talk about, the emptiness that was just void of emotion. I felt suppressed. There was nothing that was giving me joy, right? And I understood, and because I understood that nothing should give me joy, I didn't do anything fun. I didn't do anything fun because I thought that if I did something fun, then I was just trying to seek happiness in it. So I was in this kind of paradox where I was just in pure resistance, pure sense of lack, and I was resisting the sense of lack, and I didn't know what to do. So if you're going through something similar, then what I'm going to suggest is that you are in a process of you're slightly not hitting the mark, because what you're doing is you need to experience awareness in your direct experience without claiming it to be any type of objective experience. And what will happen is that you will begin to cleanse your experience in the cloth of pure awareness. Now, pure awareness is not an object. I just made a video on this. We don't want to mistake awareness to be a blank state. Some people go through an awakening process, but the awakening is simply an experience. And we don't want an experience. We want to experience the experience-less, and not as an experience. We want to comprehend that. So we want to comprehend the experience-less. And the experience-less is an experience, but it's a unique experience. It's the experience of pure being. And this experience of pure being is objectless, which is why we say it's experience-less, because it's void of any objective experience. So we don't want to necessarily try to find an awakened experience. What we want to do is just comprehend. We want to understand the nature of what we are. If we've had an awakening experience and then we are experiencing the result of this kind of sense of lack and depression, the instinctive thing to do is to try to remove the sense of lack. And the sense of lack is itself made of resistance. So if we were to try to remove the sense of lack, we would be adding more resistance to the already made sense of lack, which is made of resistance. So the resistance to it would be more of the same thing. So in order to move past this phase of this kind of spiritual depression, we have to realize that the depression is not the problem. Experiencing this is not the problem. The problem is that we are resisting the natural consequences of life because we have spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is the last thing we want on the path. Spiritual knowledge is when you've probably said before a statement and then said, but I know this is just a thought, but I know this is just that, but I know I shouldn't resist, but I know I shouldn't da 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 da. You'll say something, basically a sentence that says, I have a problem and I'm suffering. And then you counter it instantly with, but I know I shouldn't blah, 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 blah. You're gaslighting yourself with knowledge. You do not fully understand yet your true nature or the spiritual concepts that you are appropriating. So you are using those, your separate self is using those to appropriate in the right moments to prevent you from solving the problem. And the problem is you do not fully understand what is going on. And you do not understand why those concepts are said. So if someone says, don't resist your experience, stop resisting, you cannot just stop resisting your experience. You need to understand this. So this is why I never say stop resisting. I've never said, don't resist, guys. This is the worst thing to do, because you cannot do that. That was never my path. No one ever told me, hey, stop resisting and just live in the now. And I was lived for happy ever after. So from that point of view, it's a useless statement to make. So the best way that we can experience this is to give ourselves the freedom to suffer. So in this moment, even though you've awakened, don't see this suffering as a lack of your awakening. See it as a signal that you have transcended past a point that you had previously not been able to understand. Now you're at a stage where you can give yourself the freedom to suffer, because guess what you were doing for your entire life before that? You weren't giving yourself the freedom to suffer. That's why your suffering perpetuated. Now, see what happens in the moments where you do give yourself the freedom to suffer. You notice that your mind will instantly release the urge to stop trying to remove your suffering. This is what your spiritual knowledge has done. I should do this. I should remove this. I should stop that. So if you give yourself the freedom to suffer, you're going to flip completely, and you will start actually letting go. I can guarantee you that, if you understand what I'm saying. If you don't understand, just skip past this part, okay? It's only relevant for certain people who are on this level of understanding, right? If it doesn't click instantly what I'm saying, for some it does, some it doesn't. If it doesn't, just move past it. So the next thing would be to see is that your awakening experience is an experience, and we're not looking for an experience. So it's almost legitimate to say that your awakening experience is merely pointless. And it isn't, but it's better to see it that way, because then it will make you more interested in actually exploring your experience. Because what happens is the awakening experience will give us the glimpse, but as you've just experienced, it isn't solving your problems. So if it isn't solving your problems, it may as well have not happened at all. You see? It's an experience that gives you a glimpse and an understanding, and it will later give you confirmation, and it will later give you certainty. But in order to have that confirmation, in order to have that certainty, you have to first, as a prerequisite, be able to experience your true nature as you are right now in this video, for example. So what I would recommend, and what I would always recommend, is to actually start being with yourself and being interested in your experience instead of trying to avoid your experience. What you're doing is you are avoiding your experience. Because if you weren't avoiding your experience, you wouldn't feel bored, you wouldn't feel lack, and you wouldn't feel depressed. It's because you are ignoring your experience. You're not trying to find the truth. You're just trying to remove your suffering. And you're seeing this in a very nihilistic way. You're looking at the world and thinking everything is empty, void, nothing. It isn't empty, void, and nothing. As from the point of view of the mind that doesn't fundamentally exist, when it perceives something, it will have an illusory point of view as if it is the fullness. But the fullness is not the appearance of the object. We used to look at the world and think the appearance of the world is the fullness of existence. That is not the fullness. The fullness is the place from which all appearances arise, which is existence itself. So think about it. In this moment, you fundamentally exist, right? I'm sure you would agree with that. You also know that the world fundamentally exists. You don't know yet which one exists, like what the essence of the existence is. You just know that they do. Now, we don't need to go into any theory yet. We don't need to go into what they are. You just need to know that they exist. The existence that makes the world seem like a world is the same existence that makes yourself feel like yourself. Now, yourself is not the separate self. The self that you're feeling right now is not just some illusory thing that's just an appearance and an emanation of an illusion. The self that you feel yourself to be, before you qualify it with any objective experience, before you qualify with I am sitting on a chair, I am walking down the street, I am hungry, I am depressed. Before you qualify it with something, there is a sense of I. That sense of I is the source of existence, and it is the same existence that gives the fullness of experience the fullness that it has. So if you look at the world and think it's empty, pointless, nothing, no reason to do anything, you're completely mistaking the entire process. The world is made to celebrate. It is made of celebration. Think of the world as made of celebration energy. This celebration energy is existence. Existence came from nothing. Existence is an expression that came from absolutely nothing. Nothing, something came out of nothing. That is absolute magic. If that's not enough to be celebrating it, I don't know what is, you see? So now the main thing to do, and I would suggest this, I'm not going to go into too much detail. You can check out the rest in my free community. I give guidance on this every single week. What I would suggest moving forward is to experience this freedom to suffer. Just give yourself that freedom to suffer. You've already tried to remove your suffering for so long. You've seen that it doesn't work. Now be interested in the truth. Be interested not in removing your suffering. You know that's not a problem anymore. You've done everything you can. It failed. Finally, you've realized it, right? It doesn't work. So now look at what is happening in your experience. What is the quality of my experience? What am I actually perceiving? What am I actually sensing every given moment? What is that which is aware of my experience? Oh, this that is aware of my experiences has a quality of knowing. It has a quality of non-objectiveness. It has a quality of acceptance and welcoming, and just dive into these experiences. Because that is the place to look, not outside here, not in these concepts. Oh, I should stop resisting, stop doing this. Be interested in your experience. Stop trying to move your suffering. Give yourself the freedom to suffer. And now delve into what is actually happening. That is the place to look. What is going on right now? The place that you do not want to look is the place that you absolutely need to look. It's the one place you've tried to avoid through looking at spiritual books, spiritual videos, spiritual people, spiritual teachers, spiritual whatever you're looking for. You see, you're looking for objects in the world. You need to understand the nature of experience. That's the difference. So I hope this video was helpful. Like I mentioned, I have a free community. I do meditations every single week, giving guidance on this stuff. So if this is important to you, if this is something you're interested in, I would love to see you there. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care.